We are so happy to have you all with your sweet, smiling faces. Thank you all for being here. So, as Mocha just said, my name is Chaplain Cole, and on behalf of Mocha, Jasmine Johnson, and who is the Executive Director of the Athens Anti-Discrimination Movement, I'm incredibly excited and honored to be here with you all on this beautiful evening. And I am excited to introduce the 2024 candidates for the Athens-Clarke County Commissioners, District Attorneys, and Sheriff races. Now, we have a very tight schedule, and because of the number of candidates, the time constraints, and obviously the space constraints, we have decided to do three things. Number one, we will actually split our candidates into two roughly 1 hour panels. Panel number one is the Commissioners panel, we have here, where we will have all 6 of the Commissioner candidates from Districts 2, 6, and 8. I will be the moderator for this first panel, and it will, again, be roughly about an hour, from 5:30 to 6:30. Panel number 2 will be the District Attorneys and Sheriff's panel, and that panel will be moderated by our Executive Director, Mocha Jasmine Johnson. It will include the 2 candidates running for District Attorney and the 2 candidates running for Sheriff. And it will start, again, roughly about 6:35 and run until 7:30. So, I've got 17:29 for y'all that are on military time like me. So it looks like we're going to start right on time. So let's get started and meet our amazing candidates for Athens-Clarke County Commissioner. From District 2, we have Commissioner Melissa Link and Jason Jacobs? Jason J.J. Jacobs. That's going to be a tongue twister for me tonight. Y'all just watch. We are happy to have y'all. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Next, from District 6, we have Stephanie Johnson and Rashe Malcolm. Perfect. And next, I didn't ask, but if you could, please silence your cell phones at this time. Thank you. From our Commissioner candidates from District 8 are Carol Myers and Sidney Ann Waters. I forgot the Ann. Sorry, Sidney Ann. Sorry about that. All right. Sidney Ann has known me since I was 8 years old, by the way. All right, so our District number 2 candidates are going to be answering first. And again, each of our candidates will have 2 minutes to answer each question. We'll have 3 rounds of prepared questions, then we'll open it up to questions from the audience. First up, District 2 candidates will answer, followed by District 6 candidates, then District 8 candidates. And then I'll break it up and do a different order for each round. Okay, in the second round, we'll start with the District 6 candidates. All right, question number 1. What issues facing the city of Athens do you feel most passionately about? And if elected, what would you do differently than what is currently being done to address this issue? And we will start with Commissioner Link.
So, is this on? This is not even on. So yeah, economic inequality is a perpetual issue in this community and across our nation. And there's many ways to come at it. There's an important process that we're going through right now, our every 20-year land use planning process. And a lot of the way we grow has everything to do with the rules that we lay out on the ground, like literally on the ground in our community. Some of the economic inequality we're seeing today, particularly in neighborhoods in my district, in East Athens and in Hancock, has everything to do with zoning rules that were put out in those neighborhoods. Those traditionally African-American neighborhoods were targeted for student housing. And it's driven up the cost of living in those neighborhoods. It's driven up rents in those neighborhoods. It's driven families out in those neighborhoods. So particularly in my district, I want to see how we go through this process in revamping those rules to make those communities more livable for the people who have traditionally lived in them, for middle-class working families. Maybe tamp down some of the rules where it's gotten way too crowded in those communities, driven up the rents. There are real estate profiteers that have come in and flipped houses. And, I had a little old lady who basically died in her house because she could not exit her home because the student housing flipper next door took her drive away. Things like that happen all over our community. And we have so much room for growth. We have so much room for infill development and accessory dwelling development, and also for student housing development around the perimeter of campus, not just in the immediate downtown area that is getting completely swamped. So I want to see a really nuanced approach to how we manage that growth and how we protect those African American neighborhoods that have just gotten swamped and run over.
Thank you, Ms. Shirley. Mr. Jacobs.
The reason I got involved originally with city politics in general was surrounding the homeless problem. I know we're not going to address that today, but as I've gone through this process, I really think I have a unique skill set. Background in math, I've been in team sports my entire life, and I like working with people and hearing people, all their viewpoints, and I feel like there's been a lot of mudslinging lately in this community. And I feel like people are attacked for their ideas or their opinions. They're shamed for having them. A lot of people feel silent, mischaracterized, lied about. And I think that's been very destructive to the discourse that we have as a community to address a lot of the problems we have. Something that I want to do different and bring to the commission is that unifying force, that voice of reason, logic, proper efficient use of the resources that we have in a good way that yields results and solutions so that we're not continually talking about the same problems every so often, every 10 years, 12 years. It seems like the same problems keep persisting. And I'd like to work towards real solutions to those problems, and there's no way to do it on our own. I think as a community, we have to listen to all voices and all people from all backgrounds and figure out what they want and work to achieve those things. We have to amplify the good, we have to mitigate the bad. And the only way to do that is with open discourse. And lately that seems stifled in our city government, and I'd like to be a part of the change.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson.
I apologize. I had peppermint in my mouth. So the primary issues that I am concerned about and that I would like to tackle are pretty big nuggets, and they start with restoring our community and our resident public trust in our government. That means increased transparency. That means eliminating conflicts of interest. And it also means being able to go to the website, and the ACC website that is, and if you're looking for something, find it. There are many people who are disenchanted in District 6 for two reasons, and I'm going to also include the businesses as a third. But they're disenchanted because they feel ignored. They're disenchanted because no one checks on them, and they are also disenchanted because they never hear District 6 at a public meeting. Business owners, who actually live outside of the county but pay taxes, employ people, they actually have made to feel like they do not have a say-so. Now, I spoke with a business owner last week, and she generates $5.6 million of revenue a year and employs 200 people. But she does not feel like she can reach out to someone in Athens-Clarke County and find a solution to a concern. I want to speak to the issues that are specific to District 6 and the ignoring of District 6 over the years. There are many things that District 6 does not include that other communities have. If elected, what I would do...
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Ms. Malcolm? Time. We only have 2 minutes.
I apologize. I just want to make sure just they were going to let you start again.
No, I didn't know.
I didn't know y'all on military
so
time.
So it's a red and gold.
But it's time.
Yellow is this. Gotcha.
So for me, I was going to give a completely different answer when I came here tonight. But after canvassing these last few weeks, I kind of got threatened a little bit by some constituents who said, if anything outside of infrastructure comes out of your mouth, I promise you we're going to have a problem. So I'm going to stick to that because it is something that I have been talking about on my platform. We need to invest more money in our infrastructure. And I say that again, we need to invest more money in our infrastructure. We continuously talk about our neighborhoods that are older, even the newer neighborhoods. I was taken out in the backyard yesterday and showed, where sewer patches come up whenever we have too much rain. I've even discussed on my street, if it rains too hard, our lawns and our streets are flooded and we can't even get through them. Every year it seems like they constantly come and want to redo our roads and say that it's because of trash. And so we need to take what we already have, again, what we already have in place, and we need to be using those funds to take care of our infrastructure. Before we move forward, we're talking about putting another building up. Before we talk about misplacing anybody, we need to take care of our infrastructure. And this way, we don't have to solely depend on outside investors to be able to take care of our community.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Myers.
Hey, I'm going to start with something that I am passionate about on a global level and want to act on locally, and that's our 100% commitment to renewable energy as we deal with the global the climate crisis. And that is something I am keeping an eye on. It's something that the Commission is committed to. But on an everyday way of thinking and of life here in Athens, what I'm most passionate about is dealing and addressing the inequities that we have in this community that are tied to poverty and historically communities of color being treated differently here. I'm very, very proud of the work that I'm doing with the American Rescue Package. We are working with the Boys and Girls Club to address youth development and provide more opportunities for youth. And I'm also working with we have a workforce development group monies that we're trying to get to people, most likely the people who are, oh man, that 2 minutes was fast, second chance employees and such. We also have an East Side Youth Center coming to the East Side, and I hope to get that somewhere close to where the young people are, just like the library that we will be announcing pretty soon that'll be on the East Side. We have to have a place for our youth to get involved, and we'll talk about that more in the next question on gangs. I feel like that red card's about to go up, no? Oh, okay, man, I got more time here. And infrastructure as well, actually, that's a very down-to-earth thing. When you become a commission, you get a tour around all of the departments, and what you quickly learn is that there's a lot of problems with keeping up with our stormwater, our pavement, our water quality and such. And so those are things I'm committed to as well as taking care of the employees of Clarke County and making sure that they are paid well. And that includes our police department, our sheriff's department, and the lowest wage workers as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Myers. Ms. Waters?
It's not about passion, it's about need. People have expressed to me their concerns about what is happening in our community. They don't feel safe going downtown. They don't feel safe going to Kroger. And it's for one reason. The future of Athens lies with our youth. Investing in programs and activities that engage young people are investments in their future, but also our future. These programs can be recreational. I'm glad that Carol mentioned a youth center coming to Eastside. I did not know that. I'm glad she mentioned the library. We've been waiting 4 years for that. We still don't know where it's being built, but we have met many times to decide what we want in the library, what rooms we want, what we want it to look like. But we don't have a place for it yet. And I feel like we put the cart before the horse. Find the land first, and then develop the building according to the land. We need programs that offer structure, mentoring, and a very caring environment. These programs need to be advertised effectively, well managed, and targeted to the needs of our youth while meeting the needs of the community. If we don't lend a hand to helping the youth in Athens, Athens will not have a future. The children will not have a future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Waters. We're going to move on to our second question of the evening, and we will answer in the order of District 6, then District 8, then District 2. The question, gang violence. What do you think is the root cause of the gang and gun violence in our community? And secondarily, what do you think that the mayor and commission should do to reduce these incidents? We'll go ahead and start with you, Ms. Johnson.
There are several things that contribute to the delinquency in our community for our young folks, and that is poverty, it's lack of options, it's lack of engagement, it's lack of mentorship, and it's mental health. Mental health and poverty, they go hand in hand in a lot of scenarios. Being able to identify that in the classroom is key, but the classroom teachers cannot address that issue by themselves. There needs to be more mentorship type programming for our community. We need to embrace our youth. Like right now, we should be looking at how are we going to, in our strategic plan, build in how are the sixth graders right now going to be employed in 10 years. We need to be thinking ahead for their future, because if we don't offer them options and include them in our strategic plan, then they will not, they're going to leave it upon themselves to figure it out and go with what's popular. And I tutor, and I really enjoy that. And I do connect with my students, and I quasi-adopt them, but it's necessary, and it means a lot to them. And I know others. Instead of giving public funding to large organizations, I would be more supportive of providing public funding to some of the agencies that have a niche project that actually reaches mentorship to our youth, because that's what they need.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Ms. Malcolm?
So, gun violence and gangs.
Apologies.
No. So, I come from a long line of not just military police, but public service and public safety workers. And I have always known gun violence and gang violence to actually be two distinct issues. They're not always the same. Not everybody who owns a gun is in a gang. Not everybody who's in a gang is young. Not everybody who joins a gang joined it in their youth. Like, these are very distinct questions. So I would like to say that my answer for gangs would be definitely opportunity and supervision. Because we literally consider gangs to be youth, right? Even though that's not, a lot of our gang members that we've seen locked up, some of them are older than me. So I will say that is that issue. Gun violence is something totally different, because depending on what community you're in, it may not be considered gun violence. It may just be the way we grew up. Guns for hunting, accidents happen, guns for street justice. Things happen, guns for safety for your family. So I wouldn't say that guns and gangs go hand in hand. What do I think the mayor and commission can do about it? I think we have constantly heard, we need more programs. We need to give more funding to more organizations. My answer is always going to be we need more community involvement, however that looks like. We can't just blame organizations or the mayor and commission for having lack of funding. We really do need to get back to sitting at home together. I understand. I have 7 businesses, so I get it. We can't all sit around as a family, and that's my time, folks.
Okay, great. And we are going to start with next with Commissioner Myers.
Hi, moving on here to District 8. Actually, the gang violence is one of the things that I was most shocked to learn about when I attended the Citizens Police Academy before being sworn in as a commissioner 3.5 years ago, and seeing the extent of gangs and thinking to myself, this is something that's quiet, that not enough people know about. 3.5 years later, a lot more of us do know what's going on. I recently had a ride-along with Officer Chambers with the police department, who works in community outreach and identifying with gangs and working with young who are trying to help prevent people from going with gangs. And I stood with him over at Cedar Shoals and tried to understand and ask him questions about what leads people into gangs. And what I really remarked upon was that these are the same things that led teenagers everywhere that they go. They were looking for a sense of purpose, a connection to other people in the community, a little bit of status, having something to do. These are not different from what every youth here in this town wants to do. What I did learn afterwards, because I am part of this delinquency prevention initiative with the Boys and Girls Club that's focusing on gangs, and that the commission has given $2.8 million to the Boys and Girls Club. And some of the statistics that came out of the last meeting last week really surprised me. And that's just that only 1% of the 1,000 people in gangs in Georgia is under 17, another 19 up to 25, but then 80% of the people that are in gangs in Georgia are in Athens are 25 and older, which made me realize that we really need to be reaching out not only with the programs, and actually, like Rashe said, there's some great programs in Athens. There's a wonderful, youth mentoring young men program. Anyway, obviously.
Thank you, Commissioner Myers.
Okay.
Ms. Waters. Again, the question is, what do you think is the root cause of the gang and gun violence in our community? What do you think the mayor and commission should do to reduce these incidents? Sorry for the technical issues.
I also attended the same gun violence that Carol did, and I was totally overwhelmed at the young men we have working with these gangs. If they hear a problem, they go charge into the middle of it and try to defuse what is going on. They go into the homes of these young men. I couldn't believe, and it all of a sudden struck me as we may have a bigger problem than I ever considered us to have. Let's look at the root problems. Hope lifts, inspires, and encourages. Hopelessness defeats and destroys. Those who, with encouragement, caring, and training, can be productive citizens of Athens. We're facing these destructive forces that are intent on robbing our youth of their potential and their hope for a better future. If we cannot offer them hope, others will offer them a place of belonging, a place of acceptance, and a place of destruction. Gangs offer drugs and money. Young people today do not have a goal. They seek the easy way out. Reaching a goal is necessary to build self-esteem. Competing with these forces is not easy, but using the proper tools, we can ensure that every child has the opportunity to reach their potential. We can offer programs of tutoring, mentoring, vocational training, working part.
Okay.
Oh, that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Waters. Next, Mr. Jacobs.
Very fast.
Here it comes. I think this one's test 1, 2. It works. Root cause of gangs. My opinion, it's opportunity and hope as well. When you look at our kids, and I look at it as a recruiting process, much the same way. Can everyone hear me all right? Okay, much the same way you would look at sports recruiting. I feel like our kids are being recruited by these gangs with with this picture of there's no hope, there's no other way for you to go. And I feel like as a community, as a society, we need to offer opportunity for these young men and our kids in our communities, trying to find a different way out, a better path forward. With that, we got to provide the tools necessary and the opportunities to achieve those opportunities. I've had a chance to speak with the Boys and Girls Club as well. They have a good workforce program going on. It's been going on for 18 months. I think they've had 22 graduates from this program step right into private sector jobs. You're talking about with Truist Bank, with Kaiser Permanente, AT&T, Athens Construction Company. And I think that we really have to utilize some of our resources in that fashion too. I love the entrepreneurship program they have at UGA, a way that young men and young women in their communities can see needs, assess those needs, find out ways to fill those needs and monetize them and create jobs in the meantime as well. I think that provides opportunity and hope. And I'll end with a little story about myself. My best friend growing up, a young man, his brother got involved with a gang, ended up going down a bad path, ultimately succumbed to a heroin overdose. Well, he had trouble graduating from high school. I helped him with his math in getting his degree, and he wanted to take a different path. So he found the elevator union, which happened to be down in our town, kind of getting going, and saw it as a good opportunity. My father was able to buy him his first set of tools. He joined the elevator union, and now he's got a wife and 2 daughters, and he's worked his way up all the way to mechanics level in the elevator side of things. Makes a great living for him and his family, and I feel like the opportunity was there. He had hope. He saw a different path, and he took it.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobs. Commissioner Link.
So again, it comes down to economic inequality, which is a broader problem. But when it comes to kids, we need to offer them a diversity of opportunity. We've invested a great deal in youth development programs. We've given a bunch of money to the Boys and Girls Club, a bunch of money to the school district. My personal quest is to see those programs that come out of that investment be extremely diverse, so each and every kid can find a path for them that helps them find their own personal talents. I want to see us invest more in arts and nature programs. These are also areas where you can find real lucrative careers in these areas. You know, over and over again, you know, we see kids push towards sports, and not every kid is gonna thrive in sports. In fact, it can lead to a great deal of frustration in plenty of kids if you don't have the physical ability or you're a little ADD. And those are I come out of the artist community, and I know the kind of folks who end up being artists and creative types, and they are specifically the kind of kids who didn't necessarily do well in school. They weren't into sports. They might be a little scrawny or have a personality quirks. And those are the very kids that can end up in trouble when it comes to gangs and crime. And I also believe that easy access to weapons is key to the violence that's happening throughout our nation. In the states like Georgia, the rules are extremely lax. Almost anybody can get their hands on a gun, and yes, we've had at least 2 AR-15s stolen out of unlocked pickup trucks near frat houses. The more guns we have in our community, the more likely they're going to fall into the wrong hands. So, I would urge us all to press our state legislatures to pull back on these permissive gun regulations, which is minimally regulated, quite frankly.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go to our third and final prepared question of the night, and it is about public safety, the Public Safety Civilian Oversight Board, or PSCOB. We'll start with District 8, Commissioner Myers, and then we will go to District 6, followed last by District 2. So the question is, Public Safety Civilian Oversight Board, or PSCOB, do you support or are you against this board? If so, why or why not? We'll start with District 8, Commissioner Myers.
Yes, I support the PSCOB board. Definitely support it. And just to be clear, I want to make sure everyone knows what the 2 functions of that board are. One is to process and ensure investigation of complaints by members of the public regarding alleged abuse, discrimination, false arrest, harassment, and a list of other items by the police department, the probation service, sheriff's office, or corrections department. And the second charge is to review and evaluate and make recommendations regarding policies and procedures of the Athens-Clarke County, all of the public safety offices. And let me make it clear that these are recommendations. They are not able to make law. That comes to the mayor and commission ourselves. All of the boards are recommending bodies. We have oversight boards for many areas of our government. We have oversight boards for sidewalks, for the greenway, for the arts, for the planning commission, historic preservation, and more. So it makes sense that we also have a oversight board for the area of our Athens-Clarke County government, where we actually spend the most of our budget. This is something that helps give the police and all of our public safety departments more credibility with the public. Yes, they do have internal processes, but sometimes there's distrust, and sometimes there's distrust for good reason. All of these public safety oversight board meetings are available online as well. So if anyone is concerned about what's happening in them, just pick up the Athens-Clarke County YouTube site and you can watch any of them. I just want to repeat again, I am supportive of this. I am supportive of the additional position asked for the Office of Operational Analysis, and for any tweaks that need to be made for the PSCOP board going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Myers. Ms. Waters?
The PSCOP is a fairly new program. I'm sorry, I will speak up. PSCOP is a fairly new program, and as any new program occurs, it requires careful monitoring and evaluation to determine if it is in fact effective at achieving its stated goals. When a new governmental program is initiated, it should be periodically subject to an impartial review to determine the effectiveness of its program and its cost effectiveness to the taxpayers. That makes good sense. Upon an impartial review, it is determined to be effective and a benefit to the citizens of Athens-Clarke County, then it stands to reason the citizens would support keeping it. However, if upon review it is determined not to benefit the community, then it remains the duty of the responsive local government to take appropriate actions.
Thank you, Ms. Waters. Ms. Johnson?
So, hello.
Do you want to use this one?
We apologize for
Hi.
these
Hello.
technical issues, y'all. Bear with us. Be kind.
Hello? Can you hear me? Okay.
Speak up.
Louder? Okay. So as a former internal auditor and an investigator in the insurance field, I do believe in oversight. I think oversight is the best way to offer an independent third party to come in and provide a systematic approach to reviewing a process. And especially when the process is disagreeable between a complainant and an agency. There are benefits and there's some setbacks with the PSCOP approach. The benefit is if an officer is, if it's alleged that they did something incorrect and the board went through an investigation and they found that to be untrue, it gives that officer confidence to know that that process is fair. The same thing works for a complainant who makes a case. Now, I've talked to my husband, who you all, not all, but some of you know is a police officer, and we've chatted about this a lot. I think there are more benefits that outweigh the negatives. And the only negative that I could think of is this position or this approach needs to be independent. They need to have the same abilities to review the information that the police department has or the agency. And then at that time, they draw their own conclusions. And I think that anytime you have an independent third party to come in and review the exact same material that the agency has, I think that's a good thing.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Ms. Malcolm.
Oh, sorry, I apologize. You're not Miss Malcolm. And I apologize.
So the answer is yes. I do agree with and believe.
If you could speak up a little bit, Ms. Malcolm.
Yes, I do agree and believe in peace,
Could
God.
you use the microphone, please?
Is it working?
Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah, that's much better.
Okay,
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry. I'm trying not to, if I got the cotton mouth. Yes, I do believe in peace, God. I do actually want to say that I have had a lot of experiences from the different areas that I've lived. So I've seen Peace God where it has worked tremendously, and I've seen places where it looked like a complete and total failure. So I will share so that we don't all sound like a broken record. What I have found has worked the best is when you have these committees put together, these oversight committees put together that have a group of different voices and opinions. And so therefore, when they're looking at the information, everyone has a voice at the table. There are people who have had oversight committees, and everyone on the committee hates the police. And so anytime you have that, then you saw where anytime they would say when an investigation wasn't done correctly, people would say, well, you don't like the police anyway, so what does it matter? And then you've had it where everyone on there was either ex-cop or ex-military or somebody like me, family of, a lot of public servants. And so when they clear someone, they say, well, it's only because you believe in it. So I believe that, yes, these oversight committees are very much needed. We have them across the board for many different organizations and things that we have in our community. But just like how we want in the commission for all of our voices to be heard, I believe that it needs to be a mixed committee that allows everyone to sit at the table, to see the information, and then that way we can have a process where people truly feel like they are either vindicated, or if they say that someone did something, then everyone feels comfortable with the decision that was made.
Thank you, Ms. Malcolm. Mr. Jacobs. The Public Safety Civilian Oversight Board, or PSCOB, the question is, do you support or are you against this board? If so, why or why not?
I do support the board. I think many professions have oversight and should have oversight. I think it keeps everybody held accountable. And I agree with Rashe, there should be a diversity of opinion on those boards and lived experience as well. I'm huge on that. I think that police officers are faced with certain split-second decisions that if you haven't been in those situations, you couldn't possibly know how you were going to react. So I think it's important to have that perspective when analyzing how things went, and I also think it's important to have the perspective of the everyday citizens who deal with police officers in their community. So I think that it's important to have that diversity of opinion. I think it's good to have oversight. I think it builds trust in the community with the police, and I think that it's very important for communities to trust law enforcement so that they're not scared to call them when they need them, and they're not worried about something going wrong if they do call them. So I think it's a good thing. I support it. Again, I would like to see the diversity of opinion and some lived experience on that board that can speak to some of those split-second decisions that are made in very difficult times.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobs. Commissioner Link.
Yeah, of course I support it. I was one of the vocal advocates for it, when the ideas were being presented. I was one of the ones on the commission that insisted we pursue it, and it's taken a lot of hard work in the community just to get it set up. I feel like it's been an extremely careful process, and an extremely well-informed process. There were real professionals that were involved in helping to organize the layout of it, and we've housed it in our internal auditor's office, so you have some real investigative professionalism associated with it. And I do believe that the diversity of voices on it is necessary. I mean, any kind of accountability board organization needs to be seen as wholly and thoroughly legitimate, and that legitimacy is dependent on there being a diversity of experiences and voices on that oversight. We live in perilous times, and we saw a lot of unrest across the nation when the police and citizens interacted, and we don't want to see that in our community. And I feel like a board like this can instill that trust on the front end. Officers know that they will be accountable, and the citizenry knows that there is oversight. And you can't have a peaceable community without that kind of trust. So I thoroughly 100% support it.
Thank you, Commissioner Link. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our planned question and answer session. We only have time for two, maybe three questions. And now we want to open it up to the audience for you to ask any questions that you may have. First come, first served. Mara Zuniga, I see you. Please take the microphone to Ms. Zuniga. Nice to see you, Ms. Zuniga. You know how this game is played. She was the first one with her hand up. And so please make your question brief, accurate, to the point, and if it's directed towards any specific commissioner, please say that.
I'll try this not working, so try to project the microphone, to try to project your voice as best as possible to the ears. Okay.
So sorry.
I wrote my question here, so I won't forget. So my question is for the incumbents. You have been in government for years now. Some of the issues that you spoke about tonight have been discussed in previous years. So my question to you is, what have you done specifically for your district to address Black community issues that they have? If you can be specific to your district, what have you done to address some of the issues that the Black community is having that you mentioned and have been mentioned throughout the years, but the Black community has not seen any progress?
Thank you, Ms. Zuniga. We will start with Commissioner Link and then go to Commissioner Meyer.
So I mentioned before, the issue of our African-American neighborhoods being run over by student gentrification and increased cost of housing driven by that gentrification. And I saw that my very first couple months on the commission. I saw real estate investors coming in and buying up the entire block on Reese Street. I was only able to recognize it, because I'm in the community, and I noticed vacant houses, and I got online and looked at who was buying these houses and recognized that large-scale development was coming. And, through convincing allies on the commission, we were able to get a moratorium, and in the long run, we were able to save that block of homes. And one of those homes is the historic McBurney house, an extremely historic African-American property. It was owned by Miss Annie Burney, the namesake of Bernie Lyons. She was a renowned educator. Once upon a time, she leased rooms in that house, and now that house is perpetual affordable housing. There are two other properties on that block. It's a small step, but by that kind of diligence and that kind of awareness of zoning laws, that's one example of how we can help protect these neighborhoods and protect affordable housing. Just being aware of, who the players are, who the real estate profiteers are, and how we can utilize these planning and zoning laws to protect neighborhoods and assure that they become affordable housing for the working class people whose families have lived in them for generations often.
Thank you, Commissioner Link. Commissioner Myers.
Well, first, if you know, District 8 is on the east side. District 8 has changed about 50% since I was sworn in a couple of years ago. So I have a slightly different district right now. But for the most part, my district is a very middle-class district with white, Black, Hispanic people living in a lot of the middle-income neighborhoods. There are a couple of Section 8 housing. So Athens Gardens used to be in my district, and now Clark Gardens was there. I was just over there last week. I have helped individuals there. There was an individual who had a whole lot of trouble with mental health issues, and I was connecting her up with the neighborhood leaders to go over there. I am someone who I very much value the relationship that I have with our neighborhood leaders who are going out into the schools. I listen to what they bring back and talk to me about what's going on at the different elementary schools and how we can help get more programs in there. I think that it's, I I came over here from the east side. I came through District 8, I came through District 4, I came through District 10. We are not isolated units, so we work together on problems that are across the county. We are working on a District 8, the East Side Library, which we are trying very hard to get in walking distance of the schools, and I'm hoping to do the same thing with the youth center. Those are both projects that are on the SPLOST 2020 program, and so the library was earlier in the program that was set in terms of the money coming in, but I believe the youth center is something we're gonna start addressing. And for those who are, the site selection on the library, actually, I was just asking about that last month, and we should be hearing something on that soon.
Thank you. Okay, the gentleman in the back, and then Mr. Coleman.
I'm all for the oversight boards. I think it's good. And one question, I applied for the police oversight board. I felt like I was qualified. I was on the original Clarke County Police Force. Judge Lawrence was actually my chief at the time. I went on into business. I've been in arbitration. I've been an expert witness in different things. I was told to hold a day, and for my interview, it never showed up. Fine, I'm okay with that. What I'd like to ask all of you, if you're elected, would you consider having each commissioner build their own candidates for any and all boards, and if they can't draw one, then it goes to the general pool? Because when I looked over who was selected, to me, it didn't represent the entire county in full. I think that would be a healthy thing. Could I just give a show of hands if you think that's a good idea, or
Isn't that?
I'd like to, I could
So-
respond to that.
For the sake of time, we'll give a 30-second response. Is that all right with you all?
Okay, just, probably you want to be communicating with the members of the Government Operations Committee. Actually, perhaps Commissioner Link can talk to that, because they're going to be reviewing the rules and regulations for our boards, authorities, and commissions. For example, right now on our Planning Commission, we have 3 spots open. We had 15 people or so apply, but according to the rules, we were only supposed to have 5 people interviewed. So we are looking at ways to change that. Pay attention to that, and Commissioner Link might have something else to add to that.
I appreciate it. I just think we have got 10 districts.
Thank you, sir. Sorry, we need to hear from them. Sorry. Thank you for your question. Okay, Commissioner Link?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what process you're referring to, but, on the Government Operations Committee, we will be reviewing some of the processes for selecting members, and I think that those processes need to be different for different committees. I mean, there's a huge difference between, say, your Public Arts Commission and your Planning Commission and your Police Oversight Commission and your Industrial Development Authority. So, I do feel like we need to tweak those processes to.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee.
Yeah.
So I have a different response. I've actually spoken to people just like the gentleman in the back who also said they applied and was well qualified for a position. And so the resident, keep in mind, does not know what the internal process is. They just complete the paperwork. And then when they are told to hold a date, take a day off work and hold a date for an interview, and it never comes. On the flip side, I've also been aware of people just recently who said, I didn't apply for a board, but I got a specific direct phone call from the mayor and asked me to be on that board.
Okay. No response?
Oh, you wanted,
He asked us, we're giving everybody 30 seconds. If you care to respond, please do. If not, then pass.
okay, yeah, I'm about to say, because I honestly don't know enough about how they pick the board. Because I thought it was picked by the.
Sure.
Did you apply?
Thank you, Ms. Waters.
Over the years, my husband and I have applied for several different boards.
Can you speak up, Ms. Waters?
Over the years, my husband and I have applied for several different boards, but have never even been called in for an interview. I do not know why, but I can see where commissioners could even recommend 2 people from their district to go into the pool. I have no problem with that at all.
Thank you, Ms. Waters. Does any other candidate want to answer?
That makes a lot of sense to me. You get a good broad perspective of a lot of different, obviously the 10 different districts. That makes a lot of sense when we talk about diversity on that board. So that would be something I'd definitely consider to look at.
Thank you, sir, for your question. Mr. Coleman.
I would like a question for each member. What do you all feel about manufactured homes? Let me know if you like it or dislike it.
The question is, what do you feel about manufactured homes? Do you like or dislike?
Yeah, that's the question.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman.
So when I first got a piece of
Please
property,
use the microphone.
How much time?
30 seconds.
I'm
30
in the
seconds.
microphone, y'all can't hear me? I'm in the microphone.
Yeah,
Okay,
just speak
there we
up a
go.
little bit more.
So when I first got a piece of property in Athens, I actually tried to put a manufactured home on it and was turned down. And I have, for the longest time, been trying to find out why. I actually now have some more property on the east side, and literally my neighbors all have manufactured homes. And so I thought, well, I could put one up too. And when I went to go turn in my paperwork, they were like, absolutely not. So I'm curious to hear what everyone else has to say. But to answer your question, yes, I do feel good about manufactured homes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Malcolm.
I think what we need to do is we need to look very closely at our zoning and perhaps expand where we allow manufactured homes, because that's the issue. Last night, we just approved the application of a grant that would take federal money to fix up homes. And one of the questions I asked last night was, where can we actually put them right now? And so I'm awaiting an answer on that. So I hope we can look at that more openly and let there be more types of housing in more places.
Ms. Waters, thank you, Commissioner Myers.
A manufactured home could cost as much as a regular house. And so I have no problem with manufactured homes. I realize over the 46 years I've lived here that it's very difficult to get approval for one. And it is a way for someone to step into a more affordable housing. So I fully approve.
Okay.
I also approve of manufactured homes. I am in support of that. I actually grew up in one until I was 7. I think there's a place in our community for it. I know that sometimes the barrier for manufactured homes is zoning, but it's also financing. And so if the two can talk to each other and we can figure that out, the zoning and specific financing for manufactured homes, we could implement some of those areas, some of those homes in our area, in our community.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Thank you, Ms. Waters.
Yeah, I definitely want to see us expand opportunities for all housing types, including manufactured homes. My mother-in-law lives in one. My family owned one up until a couple years ago. And there are broader definitions when you come to like container homes and tiny homes on wheels. Like, we definitely need to open up the rule book when it comes to types of housing and where it goes and opportunities for infill housing.
Thank you, Commissioner Link. Mr. Jacobs.
Sorry.
I too would be for manufactured homes. I think we're obviously at an inventory shortage, so any way that we can increase inventory and bring down prices to get people into the housing market, I would definitely be for in any way, shape, or form. So,
Outstanding. We have time for one more question. Gentleman in the back with the baseball cap, if you could speak up, please.
I do. If anyone on the county commission, would you remove yourself from voting if it had something to do with the city contract? That way you wouldn't show any bias towards, if that makes sense. Not to vote on something you would have any kind of stake in.
Conflict of interest.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I think,
Yes.
Seconds.
Yes.
I don't think we need 30 seconds for that because but
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, any attorneys in the House, but there are,
Yes. There are already ethics rules on that.
yeah, there are
Yeah.
bills, but
Yes.
So if you would excuse yourself, just raise your hand.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you would recuse yourself from any business contract that came before the commission, yes, that's it, right? Sir?
Yes.
Is that, okay.
We're gonna, the guy in the red,
I'm sorry, what?
I was gonna go with the guy in the red.
All right, the next question,
Over here.
gentleman in the red.
Right here, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is specific for Rashe. You currently own property that was sold to a lawyer, correct?
That is not correct. And I'm glad you asking me that publicly. I'm going to take off my whole glasses.
About the grant money, and has work started on that project in the Iron Triangle? And if so, when is that going to happen? If not now, when? Also, is that going to be student housing, or is that going to keep people in their homes that actually occupy that space now?
Can I please
Thank you for your question, and
Can I get the microphone?
do whatever you would like to do.
30 seconds. I can do this in 30 seconds.
seconds.
Sir, I absolutely own my property. I absolutely did not sell it to any attorney. I took my property from Rashe's Cuisine, which is my restaurant, and put it in 585 Vine Properties, which is all public, so that I could take off the liability from my restaurant. No, the project has not started yet, not because I'm doing anything wrong, but because the grant is a reimbursable grant, which means I have to have the $1 million up front. I have to pay for all the work up front, and then the state reimburses me back the money. That is the reason why the project has not started yet. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we might have one more person we can see. Barbara, I'm sorry, Barbara, she had raised her hand earlier.
Sorry, Mr. Green.
I would like
Yes, ma'am. If you could speak up, please.
I would like for everyone y'all to answer this. I've been going to the commission meeting for a long time, and we all went up there, and Lexington Heights got put out by Ambassador, whoever came in here. But I want to know is, what is y'all looking for when you come to affordable homes? Because the affordable homes that I've been in since I've been going to the meeting, it's not affordable homes in our area. So I'm looking to know, could each and every one of y'all tell me what y'all specify as a affordable home for low income people?
Thank you for that question. All right, we'll just go straight down the line. We'll start 30 seconds.
Can we get the...
We'll start with Rashe, Ms. Malcolm, because she has a previous engagement.
I apologize. I have a previous engagement that was scheduled before this. I'm still asking what the definition of affordable home is, because we don't have one right now in our local government. I've asked, is affordable housing supposed to be based on the federal housing list that comes down? So if you go online to the federal housing list and you pull up Athens-Clarke County, they have a list that says what housing should cost based on the 30%. And on that, I think it had, last when I looked at it a couple of months ago, it had one family single room housing was $910. A lot of people would agree that's not necessarily affordable in everyone's income. Sorry about that. I gotta go. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Ms. Malcolm. Okay, we'll go down and start with Mr. Jacobs. Mr. Jacobs.
Sure.
Thank you.
here, this way.
Oh, sorry, I thought she was reaching for it.
Mr. Jacobs had said it's okay to call him JJ.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I mean, just don't call me Mud. That's what Stand up. Fair enough. I agree with Rashe. I think we should have a pretty good definition of what affordable housing is, but I'm a market force guy. So to me, supply and demand, the more supply we can create, the more we can bring down the price of homes and get people in affordable homes. I look at a lot of the employees that work for us. They have no hope as young professionals of getting into the housing market currently. Some of those forces are beyond our control. Talk about interest rates, building costs, etc. But any way we can work as a commission to incentivize more affordable homes, whether that's smaller homes, duplexes, multiplexes, apartment complexes, things of that nature. The more we can do, I think the more options we provide, the more we bring home prices down.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobs.
Beg your pardon.
Commissioner Lynn.
So affordable housing, according to HUD, is defined by 30% of your income. So it's different for different people depending on your personal income. And then there's a formula by which you use the median area income, and when you're getting federal housing credits, you build for 40 to 60% of that median income. So there are definitions. There are definitely definitions, and money is granted based on whether or not they fall into those definitions.
Thank you, Commissioner Lynn. Ms. Johnson.
My take on affordable housing starts with the investment that comes outside of our community. Investment groups or individuals that purchase large parcels, and I mean 20 or more properties at one time. That in itself, by default, actually increases the value of the homes. When you have someone that can come in and purchase 100 homes, as in Miss Barbara's case, then they're going to change the game.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Well done, well done. All right, Commissioner Myers.
Yeah, I was looking this up earlier about the North Athens development and the affordable housing there, as well as the new, what is it called? The Athens flat out by Kroger's. And the housing that's going to be there will be for people at 60% level of the median income, which means for $34,000 for a single person and $49,000 for a family of four. And I think that Commissioner Link also talked about some affordable housing being less than that.
Ms. Waters.
You know, 46,000 is about what a starting teacher makes. I don't know a lot about affordable housing. I know as rent increases and people are forced to move out, where do they go? How are we offering a place that for them to move to, or are we just running them out of the county? That is my major concern, because we are losing a very
Thank you very much, Ms. Waters. Thank you. And on behalf of the Athens Anti-Discrimination Movement, AADM, I thank you for showing up and being engaged Athenians. Remember, the most important thing you can do is to vote. Tuesday, May 21st is the primary, special, and nonpartisan election day. Advanced voting is from April 29th through May 17th. Thank you, and please stick around for our second panel, the District Attorney and Sheriff's candidates, moderated by Ms. Mocha Jasmine Johnson. Started on time, finishing on time.
We advocate for racial and social justice through education and activism. We have several different programs, from community service, bailout service, to end the school to prison pipeline program to help to serve our community. In addition to that, we are a nonpartisan 501c3 organization. Athens Anti-Discrimination Movement do not support or endorse any political candidates. The main focus of our group hosting these kind of community meetings and discussion is because we feel like the community needs to be involved. We're here to inform you and provide a platform and a space where you can voice your opinions and get to learn more about the different candidates, regardless of what political party, organization, or government infrastructure that you are a part of. So welcome, and thank you guys for being here. Chaplain Cole is going to facilitate this panel as well. It gives me an opportunity to make sure that, I'm dealing with technical difficulties and all the other stuff that might pop up unexpectedly. So thank you. And if you look around this room, it is so diverse. This is what Athens look like. So I'm so happy to see so many diverse faces from different walks of life, from different backgrounds, whether or not they support our organization. I know some of them are still up in here anyway, so that is a beautiful day. So just look around the room for a minute. Give yourself a round of applause for being here, please. And I'm going to give it up to Chaplain Cole Napper.
All right. Round two. Welcome to the Athens Anti-Discrimination Movement, the 2024 District Attorney and Sheriff's Forum. We are a couple minutes behind, but that's okay. We'll make up for it. All right. This is our general session here. We're going to go ahead and get started. We will give each candidate 2 to 3 minutes to answer, since we have fewer candidates under this forum. And we will alternate between the DA and the sheriff. And so, the first question, first of all, let's do 1 minute for each individual to just introduce yourself to the audience and anything that you would like to say in that 1 minute. The timer is Dr. Barb Benson right there with the yellow and red cards. Once you get the yellow card, that means you're halfway through. And once you get the red card, that means you must stop. Okay, we'll start with, we'll go ahead and start with District Attorney Deborah Gonzalez.
Hello.
Can you hear you? Yeah.
Hello.
Okay.
Is that better?
Okay. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Deborah Gonzalez. I'm honored.
Can you hear you? Back off. Test. Can we get a...
This one should be working if you talk directly in. You have to just talk into it very directly.
He's the only one who comes up here.
These are the only ones that are working for this one. Oh, sorry.
Again, good evening, everyone. I'm Deborah Gonzalez. I'm honored to be your elected district attorney since 2021. I am here because I am running for re-election. As always, I love to be in a room with my people and my community and to be out there and to talk about some very important topics to all of us, which includes safety, justice, accountability. And so I want to thank AADM for this opportunity and all of you for being interested in wanting to participate in this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah Gonzalez. Mine works. Kalki Yalamanchili.
Hey, thank you to the Athens Anti-Discrimination Movement for putting on this forum and inviting me to participate, and thank you to everybody that's shown up tonight. My name's Kalki Yalamanchili. I'm running to be your next district attorney. I've spent my entire career doing criminal justice work for over 12 years. I spent over 6 years as a prosecutor, and I've spent over 6 years as a criminal defense attorney, including representing people who are charged with crimes but can't afford an attorney, so they qualify for appointed counsel. I'm running for district attorney because I know this community has everything that it needs to have one of the best district attorney's offices in the state of Georgia under the right leadership. That's the type of office that I want to provide for this community, committed to justice for all and doing the right thing the right way, regardless of whether anyone is watching, and the type of office that I want to provide for my two little boys who live here in this circuit, who turned 7 and 5 earlier this month, and my wife, who's also a prosecutor and lives here in the circuit as well. That's why I'm here, and that's why I'm running to be your next DA.
Thank you, Mr. Yalamanchili. Now the two candidates for sheriff. We'll start with Mr. Dorsey.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Tommy Dorsey. I am running for the sheriff of Athens. I'm a long-time resident, lifelong resident, 27 years in law enforcement here in Athens. I know exactly what law enforcement should be. This has been my life for the last 27 years. So if you vote Tommy Dorsey for sheriff, I can guarantee you we will make a change.
Thank you, Mr. Dorsey. Sheriff Williams.
Is this one working? Y'all here? Sheriff one. All right, good evening, y'all, and it's an honor to be here. I'm Sheriff John Q. Williams. I've been your sheriff since 2021. Again, thanks to AADM for hosting this. It's a very important panel that we all get to discuss and answer these tough questions. Thank you all for coming out. I absolutely appreciate the diversity in the room. And one of my top missions since becoming sheriff and definitely moving forward is to make sure that this county, which is under a unified government, is actually unified. I want to make sure, whether it's public safety, whether it's any other branch, leisure services, working with the other law enforcement in the area, whether it's state patrol, the school police, that we all are on the same page. We're trying to keep this community safe and keeping the public informed.
Thank you, Sheriff Williams. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started with our first question. Again, we will alternate between the sheriff and the DA. Questions. The first question for the sheriffs is about custody. And we'll start with Mr. Dorsey and then Sheriff John Q. Do you support the shackling with handcuffs, ankle, and belly chains of pre-trial detainees accused of nonviolent misdemeanors who are in custody because they are too poor to pay even the lowest of bonds available? Why or why not?
3 minutes or 2 minutes?
2 minutes.
Absolutely. I definitely do support it. Being in law enforcement, our job is safety and security. So what we've got to focus on is, just because of a crime, you still have to have that safety and security. We've also had a situation that just happened in the jail, a guy that was in jail on a misdemeanor. So, I mean, he choked the guy out. So I definitely support it. We also, just because you're in jail, we've got to support, we got to have shackles on you. If you come outside of the jail, you will be shackled if I am elected sheriff.
Thank you, Mr. Dorsey. Sheriff Williams?
Okay, and it's not really even a matter of whether I support it or not. It's a safety issue. When you look at historically, there are all types of situations that can happen. Just because somebody is foreseen as being nonviolent, it doesn't have that history, that doesn't mean anything could happen. Fulton County, March 11, 2005. Anybody know the importance of that date? The name Brian Nichols, research it. He broke free. He shot several people, killed a court reporter, and a judge, and an officer, and several carjackings. That's why the safety is there. Ask the judges when you get a chance if they support the shackling. It's about taking care of people. If we had a situation where we had more staffing and we could actually provide one deputy to each detainee, we could do away with the shackles. If we had a situation where the courthouse was built in such a way that the detention cells were closer to the courtroom, we could do away with the shackling. Until, and I'm helping to design the new courthouse, that's one of the things that's in there. But until one or both of those things happen, it is not safe to just have everybody not shackled. Under those situations, I would absolutely support going away from that practice.
Thank you, Sheriff Williams. Our next question goes to the district attorney candidates. And we'll start with District Attorney Deborah Gonzalez. DA Gonzalez, the DA's office has been under a lot of scrutiny. What would you do differently if re-elected?
So thank you for the question. And again, thanks for being here. I think one of the things that I would do differently is be even more vocal than I've been. You know, whenever you come in and you bring change, right, and you're dealing with a system that has been in place for hundreds of years, there's going to be pushback. When I walked in, there was always pushback from the day one. I had a whole county who wanted to secede just because I got elected. And change is messy, and change takes time. And I think one of the things that I would do is explain to people some of the processes that happen, because a lot of people, even in the beginning, when I first ran, trying to educate about what a DA actually does, right? And lots of people have this view that the only thing they do is be in the courtroom and prosecute. But that's just part of the job. It's always only been part of the job. And if you talk to prosecutors who have become DAs, they will tell you that the skill sets are very different, right? And that it takes time. And it was something that happened even when I became representative of Athens. You don't know what happens in that office from the outside until you sit in that chair, until you have to make those decisions, until that information is given to you about truly all the pieces that work. What a DA does, what the judge does, what the defense do. Everybody has a role. Nobody sees the whole picture until you're in there having to make those decisions. So one of the things I would say is explain to people the need, right? As MLK said, the arc of history bends towards justice, but it is a long arc, and it takes time. And just as much time as it took to get this system to the point where it is today, it's going to take DAs stepping up and saying, we are about reform and we need to change things, and that's going to take time. And you can't change a system that's been in place for hundreds of years in 3 years, right? Because in those 3 years, you're learning the system.
Mr. Yalamanchili.
Thank you. So I'm going to try to be pretty specific. I think the question is, what would you do differently? First, lead from a place of experience in delivering justice for victims. I've successfully tried every kind of case there is, from a DUI up to a murder. And number two is implement an internal training program that's run by the district attorney, myself. I teach a class at the University of Georgia in criminal litigation. I'm not speaking on behalf of the University of Georgia, but I teach law students all the time how to do the job. So I think we need an internal training program that'll give new prosecutors much more confidence when they come into the office, I am going to fully utilize the accountability courts. We have great programs for people who suffer from substance abuse or mental health issues as the cause of them coming into the criminal justice system. Right now, our felony drug court and our veterans court are only about half full because we frankly have essentially a non-functioning district attorney's office. I would prioritize cases where people are incarcerated. The other day it was brought to my attention that there was a case in which charges were eventually dismissed, but not until a man had spent 13 months in jail because he was homeless and couldn't make a $2,000 bond, and the district attorney's office hadn't even indicted his case. So that's completely unacceptable. That's a systems failure, and that's a miscarriage of justice. Similar to when a victim doesn't get justice. I demand high adherence to high ethical standards from people who are considered for employment in my office and also people who are employed by my office. We had a situation where a man who had manufactured evidence to obtain a wrongful conviction in a different state was hired by this office and then withheld evidence illegally from the defendant again and was not terminated immediately. He stayed on staff for several months, collecting tens of thousands of dollars. That's just a culture killer. And if you're building an office, you need to build a culture that says do the right thing the right way, regardless of whether anyone is watching, and teach people what that means. Okay, I gotta stop talking.
Thank you, Mr. Yalamanchili. Okay, the second question for our sheriff's candidates is about jail conditions. And we'll start again with candidate Dorsey. Mr. Dorsey, how do you plan on hiring and retaining staff and improving jail conditions?
It's a great question. First off, the people that are working in the jail, I plan on treating them as fairly as possible. I plan on giving them a wage that's equivalent to the police department. Right now, the police department is making $10,000 less than the sheriff's department. That's not beneficial towards, that's not good. How can you go out and recruit someone and pay them $10,000 less? So that's gonna be one thing. Another thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get out and recruit within the community. You know, we always talk about having jobs within the community. I wanna have careers for the citizens of Athens, to bring citizens in and give them a career field right here so that they can work right at home. That's what I'm gonna do. Improving jail conditions, I mean, the jail isn't as bad as everybody says that it is. You know, of course, you have some filthy stuff that goes on in the jail, but once again, I definitely want to be as fair and as transparent as possible. You know, we always talk about being transparent, but the community needs to know exactly what's going on. So if the community is knowing what's going on, we can all work together and build that jail up. We can build that jail up for who? For our citizens. And who are the citizens, the inmates? We can build it up for everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Dorsey. Sheriff Williams?
Again, another great question to start off with. And I think the number one thing we need to talk about is just staffing issues. That's something I've been fighting for over 3 years. The difference between PD pay and ours right now is not $10,000, it's actually right around $6,000. We've got some progress on that and we're trying to make more. One thing that we're definitely about to do is we're going to increase the hiring bonuses that we have. We're going from $3,000 to $4,000 for our detention officers. And similarly to what PD has done, we're going from $6,000 to $10,000 for hiring certified sworn deputies. The police department is almost full. And I've been working back and forth with the mayor and commission trying to get the similar concerns and all those things taken care of. And it's something that's not going to happen overnight. The way it got to PD making more, that was not a 1 year or a 3 month process. That was years coming. I don't plan for it to take years to get fixed, but we're going to talk about it. And I need the community's help with vocalizing that. That's what happened. That's how the fire department got what they wanted. That's how the librarians got what they needed. And that's what we're going to need to get where we are. And as far as jail conditions, I agree. It's not what people say. We've got better medical care. We've got better mental health services. And I offer anybody who wants to come out and take a tour of the jail, come. We'll show you. That's true transparency. We do tours all the time. Sign up, we'll get you in there, and you can see firsthand what it is and is not like in the Clarke County Jail.
Thank you, Sheriff Williams. The next question for the district attorneys is about marijuana. The question is, Would you prosecute low-level marijuana offenders? Why or why not?
And you want to start with me, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 2 minutes?
Mr. Yalamanchili, yes, please forgive me. Yes.
Yeah, no problem. So I just want to clear up a couple of things, right? Because in the 2020 election cycle, there was a lot of talk about not prosecuting low-level marijuana offenders. And I just want everybody to know the Athens-Clarke County Police Department, sometime in 2020, before the election, stopped arresting people for misdemeanor marijuana offenses for almost the entirety, unless there was some other accompanying offense. And the reason for that is that the state legislature had passed a farm bill that defined hemp as a certain concentration of THC, and the police department couldn't test misdemeanor amounts of marijuana or any amount of marijuana to determine the THC concentration. So you would have to send it to the GBI to get tested, and they won't test a little bit of marijuana. They already have a giant backlog. So I just want to put that out there and let people know that our community stopped doing that a long time ago. In general, as it relates to low-level drug offenses, I think treatment is what we have found. Luckily, we've gotten to the point where we have determined that these aren't moral failings, just like mental health issues aren't moral failings, they're health issues. And to the extent that we are involved in the criminal justice system, our focus in those cases needs to be interventions that involve treatments. But as it specifically relates to low-level marijuana offenses, that just hasn't been happening in the community for a while unless there is some other associated charge with it. To me, where we need to place our resources, because a lot of the management of this job is where are you going to place your manpower hours? And so our manpower hours needs to go towards holding violent offenders accountable and delivering justice for victims in those cases, and then focusing in nonviolent felonies on how can we connect these people with either treatment resources in the community, or if they have a level of treatment need that is significant enough, how do we connect them with our accountability courts? And so to me, that's how we should be deploying our resources.
Thank you, Mr. Yalamanchili. It needs to go to DA Gonzalez next.
Sorry.
DA Gonzalez, would you prosecute low-level marijuana offenders? Why or why not?
I'm being sued for not doing it. Right? That I ran on that platform, I stuck to my platform, and there's a lawsuit because I didn't do it. We look at every case that comes in. When I came in, there was a 2,400 case backlog because we were in COVID. And the courts had sort of this emergency order for 18 months where there were no trials running, there were no grand juries running. So when I walked in, we came in with that, and we made a decision of where are you going to put the resources that you have? You want to focus on those crimes that have the most impact on our community. And low-level marijuana possession or drug possession is not where that is. We are lucky in Athens. We have 6 different accountability courts. One is the felony drug court, one is DUI and state court, one is TAC court, which combines mental health services with drugs. One is the veteran court that does all of that for veterans, right? We have a pretrial diversion program to help. We have a restorative justice program in our juvenile system to help. Why? Because if you have somebody who is done their 13th shoplifting, putting them in jail is not going to help, right? You have to deal with the underlying issue. And whether that's mental health or whether that is substance abuse because they're trying to feed their habit, that's where we need to go. Now, Athens has resources. We need more because Athens is actually a hub for 15 counties around us, which means that we are getting people brought in here so that they can get services that they cannot get in their counties, and that just increases the burden and the responsibility of those services that we have here. So, for somebody who says, this is my platform, this is what I'm going to do, yes, I'm being sued for it. So if you want proof about whether I am actually doing what I promised you I was going to do when you elected me, there you go.
Thank you, DA Gonzalez. The next is a sheriff's question, and we'll start this time with Sheriff Williams. Sheriff Williams, the question is about Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. The question is, do you support contacting ICE agents when people without immigration paperwork enter the jail?
This is an easy one because I'm a constitutional officer. The law says that I have to do that I follow the law. I have to uphold the law. That's been that way. It's going to be that way. There's a lot of things that have come up with recent incidents, even some of the things that have happened in Athens, and the former president of the United States has mentioned Athens by name. And there's a lot of laws that may go into place. There's one that's waiting on the governor's desk to be signed. If that gets signed into effect, that's the new law. As a sheriff, I will absolutely have to follow that law. So it's not a matter of whether I support it or not. It's what does the law tell you that you have to do? I don't have a choice when something's written in stone. Now, there are some other things that people don't realize. A lot of the things that I guess come under question are some of the policies. Now, when ICE themselves has forms that tells you that an ICE detainer does not authorize you to detain people beyond the time that they would normally be held, a judge's order of bond is an actual order. So if the judge says this person has to be let go, that's an order. That's the law. I have to follow that as well. So in short, I will absolutely follow the law.
Thank you, Sheriff Williams. Candidate Dorsey?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely do support it. I support it 100%. That's a 287G law stating that you're required, just like Sheriff Williams said, you're required to contact ICE. So, I mean, it's not as if you cannot do it. I mean, you're required to do it. There's a House bill that was just passed stating that if you don't do it, you will lose state and federal funding. So, absolutely. And if another agency contact you and tell you, hey, I need to place and hold on someone for whether it's 72 hours or 10 extra days, you have to do that. You definitely do. That's no different than Fulton County or Madison County stating that. So yeah, I do support it.
Thank you, Mr. Dorsey. Our next question is for the district attorneys, and it is about mass incarceration. We'll start at this time with DA Gonzalez. That's right? I'll keep you right. Okay. What role do you think prosecutors play in reforming the criminal justice system to end mass incarceration? And what steps do you think should be taken to help end mass incarceration in the Western Judicial Circuit?
So thank you again for this question. Another one that, for me, I take very, very seriously, because DAs are the gatekeepers, right? We get to choose who to charge, what to charge them with. We have a big influence on their sentence. Now, that is with, the judge has the ultimate decision as to what anybody serves. No matter what the defense and the DA may agree to, it is up to the judge to make that ultimate final decision of the sentencing. But when we talk about ending mass incarceration, and this is something that even Senator Warnock worked very hard on with his church in terms of ending mass incarceration, it means putting less people in jail. It means using more alternatives, meaning less confinement, but more accountability courts, more diversion, more creative ways of holding people accountable while still making the community whole. It also means that there are less longer sentences, and this is something that Governor Deal really implemented before he left. Criminal justice reform was a big thing, a big priority for Governor Deal, and he talked about reducing mass incarceration. But mass incarceration, when we say we're reducing it, we're saying it means less people in jail for less time. And is it working in the Western Judicial Circuit? Yes, and included when you look at the ACCPD's dashboard, you'll see that crime is actually down up to 6.7% here. And in different areas, such as shootings coming down or entering autos, those statistics have been coming down year by year. We are a fortunate community in that, 1 year we had just 4 homicides, another year just 6. In many other communities, they might have that much just in a weekend. We don't have that here in Athens at the way that other counties actually do.
Thank you, DA Gonzalez. Mr. Yalamanchili?
Thank you. Again, I think that there are certain things we agree on here. Looking for alternatives to incarceration in nonviolent cases, particularly drug cases. If you read the new Jim Crow, what you'll find that a big driver of mass incarceration is in fact incarceration based on nonviolent offenses, particularly drug offenses. Another big piece of something you can take away from that book is the degree to which implicit biases, even if we don't have explicit biases, inform our decision making as part of the onboarding process of training new employees at our office. I want to include a component on implicit bias training. We know that it's a real thing. And I think on an annual basis, it's important to probably do that to catch people that maybe didn't go through the onboard training. So that's a very particular way that we can address those types of issues. But I also think it's important that we have, integrity, experience, and common sense. Ms. Gonzalez wants to say she's being sued because she is not enforcing drug laws. I mean, that's not the reality. She herself, in cases that she has handled within the last several months, has sent out plea offers to people who are indigent, recommending prison time where the most serious offense is possession of drugs. So I think we need to be honest with people about what we're actually doing and not let this be simply about rhetoric. The other thing is, that might be one reason she's being sued. The other and more important reason that she's being sued is because she's violated victims' rights on multiple occasions, including extremely serious cases where someone has lost a loved one. And then instead of taking accountability for that in the courtroom, she's done things like go in and put up a defense that the widow of this deceased man is not actually his wife, or put up a defense where a child was being sexually assaulted by her father, that they didn't complain in time about the violation of their rights. And that's not integrity. And from the district attorney's office, when we lead, we need to lead from a place of integrity and be honest what we are actually doing with our policies. I think that we definitely agree that we should look for treatment solutions, but when you have accountability courts, they're only half full. The proof's in the pudding.
Our next question is for the sheriffs. The question, we will start with Mr. Dorsey. Is that right?
I did the last two.
Okay. Do you support the practice of making families and friends of inmates pay exorbitantly high fees to communicate with their loved ones? If you don't agree, how would you fix this problem?
So the way it's worded, I don't agree with making them pay exorbitant fees. Nothing in this country is really and truly free. Currently, we've negotiated a lot of different rates as far as that goes. The rate that we've negotiated with our telephone service providers is well below what you would pay, like say the old school charges that you would have for pay phones or any collect charges. We try to come in at least 3 cents below that. We've also implemented new and innovative ways to use technology to make sure that people can contact their loved ones and vice versa. We've implemented a program through Securus that every person that comes into the jail that is actually dressed in and actually stays there is issued a tablet. On that tablet, not only can they contact their family members and send emails, they can also get educational programs. They can learn a trade. They can also, we have 72 inmates right now who are actually in the process of getting their GED through that tablet program. So it's going to have to come from somewhere. We've done the research. The cost would be exorbitant if we were to try to implement something locally like forming our own telephone system. We don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the technology, and we don't have the funding to pull something off like that ourselves internally. So we do need some outside assistance.
Thank you, Sheriff Williams. Mr. Dorsey.
Okay, excuse me. I can almost agree on that. However, the old payphones that I can remember were 25 cents. However, those jail calls are way more expensive than that. So
22 cents.
22 cents. But how much is to start a jail call? So, I mean, you have to pay an initial fee at first. So the people out in the jail are indigent people. So the people need help. They are in need of help. I am one of those persons that's from Athens, Georgia, that grew up in poverty. But people in Athens need help. So, yep, you do have to charge something, but rather than sending deputies for drone classes where we're paying $10,000, let's put that money back into our department. Rather than having Halloween carnivals with 5,000 people and 8 people working in the jail. Let's put money back into where it's needed rather than having all these extra trainings where nobody's showing up at. So if we were able to just utilize the funds, then I guarantee you they would be well off. Thank you. Good.
Thank you, Mr. Dorsey. Okay. Our next question is for our district attorney candidates. It is about reproductive freedom. The question is, would you prosecute women who worked privately with their doctors to manage their own health care? Why or why not? Mr. Yalamanchili.
Thank you. So first off, in my family, we have 2 boys. Asher turned 7 earlier this month. James turned 5 earlier this month. Before Asher was born, unfortunately, Caitlin suffered a miscarriage. She had to seek care after she suffered that miscarriage, and between Asher being born and James being born, she had an ectopic pregnancy that she had to seek care for as well. I think that the convenient answer and the answer a lot of times that people want is a hard answer that no, I will not enforce the law. Let me tell you what that does. What that does is create a situation that we've seen down in Florida where state level agencies or other prosecutors that are handpicked by different state officials, not the elected district attorney for our circuit, will be making the decisions in those cases because it's been grounds to remove every single case that a district attorney says that they will absolutely not enforce the law in from the purview of their office. The way that the law operates in Georgia, and the reason that there have been 0 cases brought in the state of Georgia in the 2 years that the statute has been in place, is it prevents the providers and it leads to the providers not offering services at all that are barred by the statute. It is very difficult for me in a hypothetical sense, since this has never happened in the 2 years that the law has been on the books in the entire state, to envision a case that would be prosecutable. And the reason that I say that is because you will have a treating physician that will say this procedure was necessary and fell within one of the exceptions of the statute. And if you wanted to go in and try to prove a case beyond a reasonable doubt, you would have to get another expert who is a doctor, who would be nearly impossible to find, to come in and, having not treated the patient, testify that in fact it didn't fall in the exception, and then convince a jury of 12 beyond a reasonable doubt that that was the case. And to me, I don't see how that would be doable, but more importantly, the way that the statute operates prevents from the cases from coming up, which is why we've never had a case in 2 years.
Okay. Deborah Gonzalez.
So the way that I look at this issue is the chilling effect that these kind of laws have on women seeking help, on doctors offering to provide those health services. It's not always about what that statute says. We talk about the letter of the law and we talk about the spirit of the law. Sometimes laws are passed not necessarily that will stop a behavior. What we know are these kinds of laws do not stop women from seeking reproductive health. What they do is make them seek it in places that it is less healthy, in places where their lives are more at jeopardy for this. And I think that's where we have to look at. And when we talk about, oh, well, the law says this, there are other ways that that law gets used. We have states right now where, if a woman has a miscarriage, it is considered infanticide and murder. And when we have the laws in our state that start down that road, they can get to that point where then a woman who has a miscarriage is now, being prosecuted for murder of that unborn fetus. We have a lot of movement right now in this country about giving these fetuses personhood and what that means in terms of a woman's autonomy of her body and a woman being able to make her decisions about how she's going to do her health care, how she's going to run her life. And I think it's very, very simple to just say, well, the law just says this. But we also have to look at how that law has repercussions in other areas of our life. One of the reasons when the Doe decision came down and I made a statement that I would not prosecute women for seeking reproductive health care was so that women knew that they were safe with me, that I understood that. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes all of our prepared questions that they received in advance. At this time, we will take questions from the audience, 1, 2, 3, and then 4.
This question is specific
Yes, sir.
for Deborah Gonzalez. What was the, you talked about ending incarceration, mass incarceration. What was the population of the jail when you took office, and what is the population of the jail now, today?
And that I don't have the numbers for you at this moment.
Your homework.
So that you don't know?
No, I said I don't have the numbers at this moment to tell you how many are in jail right now.
I can tell
or
you.
when I took it. Thank you.
I can
If
tell
you
you.
can share that.
Also, Dorsey,
Yeah. Right now, we have 441 inmates in the jail. As of last night, I think we had 6 people working on shift, 3 supervisors, 6 deputies, 3 supervisors, and I think 4 civilians. So I think it's slotted for 23 per shift.
And it could be confirmed, there were less than 300 when Deborah Gonzalez took office.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for your question.
We were also coming out of COVID, right? And during COVID in 2020, we had a process to take people out of jail so that they would not be exposed to COVID. So I think you have to be very careful when you say that there was less people dead.
Next, Mr. Breeding.
Is there any, this is for all of you, is there anything that your competitor said that you disagree with and would like to comment on?
Okay, the question is there anything that your opponent has said that you disagree with that you would like to comment on? It's a fair question. Everybody gets 30 seconds. We will start with Sheriff John Q and just come straight down the line.
All right.
Okay, if I could fit everything in 30 seconds. First of all, as far as the phones go, we do have indigent care. So if somebody cannot afford, we do have ways, and there's 2 free phone calls a week. So that's one thing. And I'm opposed to talking about our fall festival. None of that money comes from the county. That is all by sponsors. I actually have experience investigating, so I wouldn't make statements like 287G being the reason for this. 287G is a program that requires you to actually devote officers to helping ICE. That's not about the reporting process.
Time. Thank you very much, Sheriff Williams. Mr. Dorsey.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. Once again, I am running for sheriff here in Athens. The sheriff is here for safety and security. If you elect Tommy Dorsey for sheriff, we'll definitely make a change. As of right now, we have low morale at the jail, low morale in the department. We don't have the vehicles. Is that my time? We don't have cars. We don't have, the people are just depressed out right now. So, I get calls on a daily basis screaming for help. So vote Tommy Dorsey for sheriff and we can make a change. Mr. Breeden, I did notice that you said if there's something said, but that's what I...
Mr. Yalamanchili.
So I'm just going to pick one thing, and it has to do with the way that statistics can be manipulated. There's been a lot of talk about how crime is down, and that's a year-over-year figure from a historic spike. If you look at the average number of aggravated assaults, you can pull this up on ACCPD's data dashboard. The average number of aggravated assaults during Ms. Gonzalez's term has been 476 a year. The 2 years they have up before that, it's 408.5. That's a 16.5% increase. But here's the part where integrity kicks in. The reality is that's not all from the district attorney's office. We had a pandemic. There are tons of societal factors that influence crime.
That's your time. Thank you. Ms. Gonzalez.
So one thing that I do take offense, we did actually have implicit bias training brought into the office. We've actually worked with the Innovative Justice Lab. We worked with Fair and Just Prosecution. We brought the author of the book Charged, which is about a different way of looking at prosecution and being fair and expanding what it is that we do. She actually zoomed in with us and talked with all of us. So we do have these trainings in, and there will be more. And
time's up. Time.
Okay. Goes fast.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
This is addressing all the candidates. Do you support pre-trial punishment of the poor, otherwise known as cash bail?
The question is, do you support cash bail? Mr. Yalamanchili.
So, I mean, the bail issue is really decided at the magistrate court level. I will say that on low-level offenses, particularly nonviolent felonies, you do not want someone sitting in jail. And there are times where it's decided at the superior court level if the offense is serious enough, but it's decided by a judge ultimately. We never want to create a situation where someone is only in jail because they cannot afford a low-level bond amount. That's why the person who sat in jail for 13 months on a $2,000 bond without even being indicted is so egregious to me, because that shouldn't happen.
Thank you, Mr. Yalamanchili. We'll go down to Mr. Dorsey and then bring it back.
Cash bails, yeah, I mean, we need them, like you said, that's from the magistrate. However, people should not just sit in jail if they can't make bond. So, I mean, the thing is, we shouldn't have people just sitting in the jail, which we have them right now. The guy that just assaulted one of the inmates was in jail on a misdemeanor charge. I think it was $1,500 bond. He has 5 open state cases. People like that should be assessed. So, I mean, I don't support it really, and I do support it, so, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Dorsey. Sheriff Williams.
So cash bond is something that, you know, as we use this word system, it's there. It's real, it's a purpose. We do have to have ways when people are sent to jail in particular that they can get out. We do also have to have a means by which to keep people who should not get out there. We have programs all the time. We talk, we call judges, we call the public defender's office when somebody's in jail. If there's a low bond, we've actually called AADM at times if somebody has a low bond to try to get these people out. So we're not having overcrowding.
Thank you, Sheriff Williams. DA Gonzalez.
Thank you. And so the only time that we ask for bond is if we feel that the person is going to reoffend. Many times they'll say you have cash bail because it's a way of getting them back. But we've seen that even in municipal court, if you text the person, they'll actually come to court, right? So it's not an issue of if that's an incentive for them. One of the things that we have, this legislative session, they actually passed a bill that would make cash bail mandatory for 30 new misdemeanors that we didn't have before.
Thank you, DA Gonzalez. Okay, next question. Yes,
well,
sir.
ironically, my question piggybacks off the one this gentleman just asked and what Deborah Gonzalez just brought up. Athens Representative Houston Gaines sponsored House or Senate Bill 63 that Mrs. Gonzalez was referencing, which does require cash bail. It passed in the Senate and the House. So the question is, should the governor sign that bill or just let it die?
Is your question just for Ms. Gonzalez?
Well, I'm sorry, for all four.
All four.
Should the governor sign it or let it die?
I would hope that the governor wouldn't sign it, because one of the other things that it does is that it does not allow these community cash bail groups to pay more than 3 bails in a year for an individual. So like, for example, I know John Vodka and the Oconee Street, they do bail bonds, and sometimes when somebody doesn't show and we're asked to make a motion, I'll say I'll make a motion for a bench warrant and say, but don't forfeit the bond because I know that it's coming from John Vodka or I know that it's coming from somebody else who's getting that money.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Right? Mr. Yalamanchili.
Look, I'm running to be the district attorney, so I can do the things the district attorney is bound by duty to do. I'm not going to venture out and give legislators or the governor advice on what they should or should not do. What I can promise you is we're going to have an office that can execute its core duties and will be fair and apply the law equally to all people and hold violent offenders accountable, connect people with resources when they need it, and invest in our young people and give them connections in the community to social capital so they have other places to go than peer groups they end up getting in trouble with.
Thank you, Mr. Yalamanchili. Mr. Dorsey?
Absolutely, I totally agree with them. I'm running for the sheriff of Athens, and whatever they're doing, I've got to support it. However, we've got to support our people right here in Athens, Georgia, which we're not doing. The sheriff office needs help right now, so I'm not running for legislative, I'm running for the sheriff of Athens.
Thank you, Mr. Dorsey. Sheriff Williams?
Well, different from my opponent, I'm actually running for re-election for the sheriff of Clarke County. I would hope that the governor would not sign this because the situation that we have at the jail, until our staffing is up, we need some ways to get people out of jail. If it calls for another source to come in and be able to bond more than 3 people out, that's what we need. When we have people that are in there for mental health issues, people are very sick. Sometimes people need to be out of jail. If that's not the place for them, we need more,
Thank you,
not fewer
Sheriff
ways.
Williams. Okay, Mr. Hardy.
So if any of you guys were elected or re-elected, what would be the first task you take on to change the community?
This is our last question.
The very first task that you see that's the attention for the community that you want to take on.
All right, Sheriff Williams, if you'd like to start.
I've already done that. We've got a lot of community programs, getting out in the community, making the sheriff's office visible, providing safe environments like the Fall Festival, like back-to-school events, where people can go and not have to worry about there being a shooting, without have to worry about there being gang violence there. So we need to have more incidents like that. We need our Explorers program to pick up where we can actually provide outlets for the youth. And we need to also work on addressing both the homeless and the mental health problem. We can actually do that in jail, and jail is not the place for all those people.
Mr. Dorsey.
It's a great question, Charles. What I plan on doing is focusing on what I'm elected to do. That's it. The jail, the courthouse, the community is a part of me, so of course I'm going to be in the community. Everything that my opponent is saying is all fine and dandy. However, we've got to actually get out to work. We can't just show up for a picture. We've actually got to stay at these events. And that Halloween festival, that was a really nice event. But we've got to actually get out and be in our community. We've got to work for the people that are in the community. The people are going to elect me, so that's who I'm going to be out for.
Thank you, Mr. Dorsey. Mr. Yalamanchili.
I think the first thing you have to do from the district attorney's office perspective is restore the functionality of the office. At this point, we have a non-functioning office. Out of 17 positions, there are only 3 licensed attorneys. That's less than 20% staffing level with actually licensed attorneys. I don't doubt when Ms. Gonzalez says she has these noble intentions. It's impossible to execute on those things without well-trained staff and experienced leadership, and that's what we're lacking most. That's the first thing that the DA's office has to do to return to being able to do anything for this community.
Thank you, Mr. Yalamanchili. Ms. Gonzalez.
Well, then you'll be happy to know we just hired 4 attorneys. We've got 2 more starting next month. So within, by June 1st, we'll be up 9 more attorneys than what we have right now, with 2 other ADA apprentices who would have passed their bar. These things take time to build the right team to put in place, right? And people have all different reasons why they stay in one place or why they leave and they move on to another. But the thing is, we have served over 7,000 victims in the last 3 years. We have closed over 10,000 cases.
Thank you very much. At this time, we've already taken our last question. I'm sorry. We did the very best that we could during the time that we have. We will have the candidates up here for just a few minutes. If you would like to come up and interact with them, we know that they would love that. Please do. I want to, on behalf of the Athens Anti-Discrimination Movement, thank all of our candidates, and if we can give them a hand.